Welcome back to Philosophy of the Barber. Hi, Cassie.
Hello, hello.
So, this week we are discussing how to have conversations with clients. So, well, we can just jump right into it. We'll have this be a nice, concise episode, maybe, after I get done editing it. Over the years that you've been in the industry, how have you grown to figure out how to talk to various clients?
I try to be as authentic as possible because I don't want to have to feel like I have to come to work and just put on a persona. And I feel like if I'm authentic, it'll attract people that mesh or at least are good with my authentic self. But I definitely gauge how forthcoming I am with information or how I speak depending on the client, for sure. I definitely gauge kind of who they are, what kind of lifestyle they're into.
Yeah, part of it's a read the room, know your audience sort of thing.
Yes, very much so. And that's one of the things that I had to learn, because as much as I thought it was going to be them talking, it's sometimes not. And not because I'm super chatty, which that is a thing, but not very many men are very chatty. Unless you're asking them questions to keep the conversation going, it's not.
Or get them on a topic.
Yeah, or get them on a topic, exactly. Find something that you can then continue to tangent off of. But guys aren't initially usually very forthcoming with sharing about themselves. So sometimes it is me talking about some stuff, different things around town and things like that.
My brain immediately goes to think of what you just said and then apply that to dating.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. So much so. It's so bad. But yeah, so very, very much read the room and kind of just gauge what they're comfortable with, because I don't share my background with just anybody, just because I don't know how people are going to take it sometimes. For the podcast audience, I am technically a convicted felon. I've got some marks on my record, so to speak, but it's from a past life of mine, basically. And so
and you've grown a ton since then.
Yeah,
and lots of time has passed.
Yeah, and it's not something that you would ever assume looking at me or conversating with me. Those of my clients that do know are usually very surprised by that fact. But it's just little things like that I keep some of those things very close with lots of people, because I don't want to give them the wrong impression or wonder if they've got their own bias about things in their head.
Right, be subject to a stigma that you're, it's unnecessary.
Yep. But at the same time, those that do, I've found so many people in my chair not only are understanding, but are almost kind of proud of me in a way. And then because of that background, I'm able to then relate to some of the people in my chair that end up with that similar background, which is really cool when I get to be that real authentic with somebody.
I also think it's a great opportunity for people that once you've built a basic foundation of a rapport with them, if you do finally divulge that information about yourself, and if they did previously have a bias against those people, that them getting to know you prior to that knowledge really helps to open up their understanding, so it kind of breaks down that bias.
Yes. Very much so.
And that's a great opportunity.
Very much so. And I think that's what is fulfilling to me most when some of those unexpected people are proud of me or shocked and surprised. And that's kind of the thought that goes through my head is see, you would never know. And people can change and grow and do. And so, yeah.
Mistakes made in the past do not mean that you have to be punished for them throughout your entire life.
Honestly, some of my favorite conversations, regulars aside, because of course we've got our regulars that we have great chats with, but some of my favorites are that first time client, because I get to just open up a world of them. I'm just asking you questions. I want to get to know about you, your family, your job, all of those things. Second haircut with that person is a little bit different, because I'm what did I ask you last time already? What did we already
Because some of it's a memory game. It's
yes,
I have to remember things.
Yes. And I want to make them feel special in a sense, because I want to remember these things, but there are so many people in our chair.
And most people do realize that. Whether it's like, I have one barber's name to remember versus we have hundreds of clients.
Yes. That was the hardest thing for me, was remembering names and putting, like, being able to look at a name on my schedule and be like, I know exactly who that is and what's happening today. But I don't remember who gave me the advice about saying their name.
Saying their name 3 times at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, like, even when they're, like, first-time client going out the door, have a good day, so-and-so, and just helping get that in there.
Yep. And the visual does help reinforce it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the majority of the time I don't know how to pronounce people's last names because I never hear them. Mm-hmm. It's like, I can spell it. I know what it looks like on paper, but don't ask me to say it.
Mm-hmm. I find it funny. I sometimes don't know what to call people when they have a name that's usually they go by the shortened version. Like Michael's that go by Mike.
Jonathan.
Yeah. And so, like, I never know whose is what's is whose, like, who to shorten. So I just don't. You get
whatever you sign up
put
as
in my book is what you get called until you tell me otherwise.
Yep.
That's just what you get.
Early on in some of my clients, I had a Chuck and I had a Charlie. Mm-hmm. And I accidentally called Charlie Chuck once, and who was not happy with that? I was like, I am so sorry. Because I feel like that's either you like it or you don't.
Yeah, fair.
And he don't. I do have one time when I got a referral, and you already know this, but, like, for the audience sake, referral, and my longtime regular client, because I have established a firm understanding with the majority of my clientele that I am very discerning when it comes to taking on new clients. And so referrals, I have impressed upon my regulars that they have a responsibility to refer good quality people to me, not just anyone.
Yeah.
So this particular person took it very seriously.
So literally.
That he set up this referral with all of the information. He gave this person my entire barber life story. And, like, told him about, the dog he will meet, and,
to bring a snack.
He brought treats for him, and, like, he knew everything about me, basically, when he first sat in my chair. So, usually first haircut is a mutual getting acquainted with one another. So it's a give and take of information. It's reciprocated.
Yes.
And I had nothing to offer this man, and I was at such a disadvantage because I'm like, I have nothing to give you because you already have been given it. I feel like someone has stolen from me because they gave you so much information. So I'm stuck having to ask all the questions, and I also feel like I'm interrogating somebody when I'm just asking questions and I'm not offering anything in return.
It makes it hard because in the back of my head, one of the things that is taught to us in school is make sure you don't make it all about yourself. Make sure it is a lot of them speaking. And so, like, that's where I get in my head sometimes, because if I feel like I'm hearing my voice too much, I question where the conversation is going, and that's why it was hard for some of the non-chatty guys with me, because I'm in my head about it. I'm like, I shouldn't be talking this much. I really shouldn't be talking this much. But they just don't. They're just not conversationalists. They're very, like, one-word answers, just kind of
monosyllabic.
Yeah, they just want to get their hair cut.
Well, and I kind of gauge whether or not their eyes are open. It's like whether or not I'm going to talk to them. If their eyes are closed, I'm shutting up. Yep.
I'm not. I'm letting you take your
nap. You
solace.
Want to rest your eyes, you do your thing. I'm cool. Enjoy the buzzer. But because typically my clients have much more eventful lives than I do, I have plenty of, like, curiosity questions going, oh, like, have you finished the bathroom project yet? How's, kids' sports stuff going? Whatever things that I know are going on in their life, like, I am curious about updates on.
Yeah.
But on the occasion that I have actually gone and done things, because it's so novel, I can actually take up a majority of the conversation telling them about them once in a while.
Yeah.
And I don't feel bad about that because
Yes.
it's like, for once I have something to talk
Share.
about. So it's not like me monopolizing the conversation. It's more of they get a welcome break. That they
Yeah.
don't have to talk about themselves.
Yeah. I definitely get what you mean with, like, the interrogation factor, though, especially when, because I was taught to not talk too much about myself, I'm usually not very just, like, forthcoming with the, like, rebuttal of my own question. Like, if they don't then ask, like, the follow-up back to me, I just continue to ask questions for them. You know what I mean? I don't want to just word vomit my life story sometimes. And so it becomes almost like interrogation style because I'm just like question after question.
Also, I tend to ask those questions as leads. So it's if they don't reciprocate the question in return, that's fine. But I still take it as an opportunity for me to offer that information to go.
Yes.
You know, if I've asked their opinion about a particular topic, and I'll go, from my personal experience,
Yes.
this is kind of what I found. Or I'll also, like, offer an alternative perspective to what I think personally. Or I won't go into what I think personally, and I'll only offer simply an alternative perspective.
Yeah.
That is at least worth discussing. Because I'm very much a big fan of extending the ability to grasp alternate perspectives on whatever issues exist. Like, whether I personally agree with one perspective or not, I like to represent other viewpoints when at all possible. So
Yeah, even if it's not your own.
right, and that allows for continuation of a conversation. But that also does take practice and like exercising that. So I'm curious, what do you find are the most difficult type of client to talk to?
Honestly, sometimes the quiet ones. Like
do you find any particular demographic or like background pattern?
No, only because my clientele list honestly isn't that diverse. Like it pretty much is a very similar background palette.
Yes and no, because I mean you have like really young kids, which can sometimes be difficult.
Yeah, fair. Teenagers.
Teenagers, yes.
Some of the teenagers.
Middle school to early high school
Yes,
are
oh my God.
like pulling teeth.
Yes. The rarity that I get a chatty one that wants to talk to me about stuff, 1 in a million.
I let them take the driver's seat. You drive the conversation.
Yes.
Whatever you want to talk about, dude, I'm happy to talk about it with you.
I will even ask you questions for you to tell me more, even if I still don't understand what video game you're talking about.
Yeah, you want to talk about Fortnite? You want to talk about Roblox?
I will ask you all the silly questions and give you minor frames of reference from what I know of those things.
Yeah, take my ear off with Minecraft. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it really is like pulling teeth. And what makes me the most uncomfortable with that is depending on the parent that's with them. If they have a parent with them, sometimes that helps because then I can conversate with the parent and we can just like have a shop talk and the kid will perk up a little bit. But like if parents just over there on their phone and has no interest, I almost get in my head and I'm like, I feel like I should be talking more to this kid. Like,
Yes.
I feel like more needs to be being said in this barbershop right now. It's too quiet. I shouldn't be hearing just clippers. But every time I ask him a question, I don't know what else to do with it.
Yes, it's when you give me a one-word answer, I have nowhere else to take it.
Yeah.
I have one of my teenagers, I cut his dad's hair too, and the last time he used my chair, I was really just getting tired of not talking. I mean, I love giving an efficient haircut, but like at some point, I'm really tired of like doing a 15-minute haircut on you because we're not talking.
It's just silence.
So I'm like, all right, look, next time, can you do me a favor and like read a book, watch a movie or something before you come in to see me? We need like to be able to talk about something. All right, I can't do all this lifting.
Yeah. Watch a YouTube video on something that you can tell me about when you get here.
Yes, something.
Yeah.
I don't care if you want to just talk my ear off about football. You can do that. Go ahead. I will. Interesting. Like, I can't contribute much to that conversation, but if you want to talk to me about it, cool. But I'm kind of done with the silence thing.
Yeah. I will say I also have to like, I shouldn't say have to because it's gotten easier the further I get in this career, but like there's no such thing as stupid questions is something I remind myself because like my curiosity, no matter how silly the question may seem, I'm genuinely curious about what you're talking about. It may seem like a silly question, but please explain to me what you're talking about, because I want to get where you're at. And so I appreciate when they are able to do so and are willing to do so. Like anybody that's talking about something related to finance or their job involving science or 3D printing. Like, I'm just curious about what that looks like in your career. Like, just because you tell me that you do something, you're a engineer. Okay, of what?
Yeah, what kind?
What
There's
exactly
lots
are
of
you
those.
doing? Like, are you...
Mechanical, electrical?
Yeah. Are you actually touching and doing things? Or are you just,
Network?
like, on a computer all day?
Yeah.
Like, what does this look like for you? And, like, it seems like a silly question. Like, oh, what kind of engineer? But it's not. Like,
No.
it's... Like, I just want to know.
That's like going, I'm a doctor. Of?
Yeah, right? Or...
Of medicine? Of literature? What?
Yeah. Because I was such a people pleaser when I was a kid, way worse than I am now. I also had to be honest when people are asking me if I know about things. You know what I mean? Because when I was younger, I would lie and say yes, that I knew about these things because I wanted to be a part of, fit in. Yes, I know all about skateboarding. Didn't know nothing about skateboarding. But now, it's okay to not know stuff. You don't have to fit in with everything. You don't have to be all-knowing. I hope nobody ever wants to talk actors with me because I'm oblivious. I try, but it's just not.
You also have to have seen movies if somebody's gonna like try and give you a reference to
Oh
the
my
actor
gosh.
if you don't know the name.
So many things.
So
Anything.
you have some background work to do if you ever want to.
I need to watch a
understand.
movie.
Yeah.
What clientele base do you feel like is most difficult for you to talk with?
Oh, 100% teenagers.
Teenagers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like just dragging stuff out of them. Kids sometimes, but I have enough interests that young children have. Being a
Yeah.
Disney freak,
Yeah.
that it's not terrible. Like, but now, like, I am too old for the TikTok.
Yes.
I'm too old to get those things.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
don't.
too old to have new apps, like, as far as social media goes. Absolutely not. I'm not going to try and be that person. You know, I'm almost 36. Like, I'm not going to be something I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, it does work in my favor being of that age because stuff is coming back around that was popular when I was a teenager. So I imagine it will hopefully start to be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But also, I'm going to feel old at the same time. So that's an internal thing that needs to be
Yeah.
addressed as far as conversations go. So there's that. Also, there are people who... It's really just figuring out, like, those first conversations, because I hate small talk. So I refuse to engage in small talk outside of something that I genuinely want to talk about, like the stupidity of the weather. I will bring that up with anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like a regular, just because like these are things that we're all experiencing today.
Yes.
And so like
Yes.
today's weather we will talk about, or like some major storm or whatever. And that, you know, that is a small talk, you know, superficial sort of a conversation, but it does affect our daily life.
Yes.
And especially here in New England, it's a factor. So, like, that's as small talky as I get. Otherwise, what I do with new people after I get the basic questions of their background and
Yeah,
such
yeah, yeah.
is I will ask random questions that are in my brain. And I am full of random questions.
Give
Like,
us an example.
my Google search history is just random questions that pop into my head.
Same. Yeah. Feel that.
Like, why do you get a pickle with a deli sandwich?
Oh, I know exactly why you get a pickle with a deli sandwich.
Yes. I will
That's
say,
a fun fact I do know.
yeah, well, so I had that question in my brain 8-9 years ago when I knew a deli owner. So I went, go to the source, right? Like, let's not hop
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
internet
yeah.
right away. Let's ask somebody that owns a deli. I asked, he has no clue.
Most people don't even know that it has a purpose.
Well, that's the thing. It's like something that's been done for that long, there is a purpose
A
to it.
reason. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just whether or not it's survived people's knowledge.
Yes.
And so I had to Google, and it took some serious Google searching. And this was, of course, pre-COVID, and Google has adjusted their search algorithms, and you can't find things now the way you could before. But this took digging to like pages into Google to find the answer. And I finally found it and was like, this makes sense. And this was even before I went to Butler School. So before I was taught like the understanding of the function of wine with meals, being a palate cleanser, especially when you're dealing with like heavier things that coat your palate. So the function of the pickle being a palate cleanser for heavy meats, deli meats that are coating your palate, you can't really taste it partway through. So that being the function was like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But I really do like the old school conversational topics of barbershops. Like, that's one of those things that made barbershops a community hub. That's where information was exchanged, and those types of things happen. Like, that's where a lot of people are educated on just random things.
The town knowledge.
Yeah, it's you ask people, because they didn't have the internet to just ask the internet.
No.
And now more and more we can't trust things on the internet upon first searching and such. So trusting people's experience is far better. So I'm way more likely to first ask somebody in my chair a random question, because even if they don't know the answer, it gets them thinking.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself is a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now you're gonna ask your friends. I want to know this, so next time, you got a month.
Yeah. Figure it out. Circle back.
Yes. So that's extra fun. Like, it gives people something to do, something to think about. Like, it's very engaging.
I do occasionally go the random question route. I also like to read my random Google News articles, and my algorithm gives me a wide array of useful and useless information. And so I just like to pop up with, in fact, sometimes I will start my day reading over Google News things just so I have some fresh articles in my head, so that way I can bring them up if like the conversation starts to hear, and be like, did you hear
About the cocaine shark?
Yes, dude, so wild. So wild.
What I kind of want to know, because we're within earshot of each other, how often do you get, like, eye-rollingly annoyed at hearing the same conversations over and over again from my side?
That's just a you problem, Bree. I don't hear you. That's not what happens.
No.
You don't.
The sound only goes one way.
Implement the same torture that I instill on you. So the question is, how many times do you hear?
I find your conversations to be entertaining. So, like, even in repetition, they're still entertaining to me. So, like, it's never a problem.
Yeah, I usually try to change my delivery just a little bit between clients, so it's just not a verbatim, like I'm reading off a script, even if I'm telling the same story.
I'm a little bit of the opposite, where I kind of use clients as a test audience,
yes,
to perfect how I get a story.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So once I've hashed it out and perfected the story, yes, it will come out verbatim, basically.
And then also depending on the client as the day goes on. Like, depending on who you land with, at least for me, because, like, I'm so animated.
Yep.
In my facial expressions, my body language, my hand gestures, the whole thing.
Volume.
Yeah, so, like, me telling a story changes on the audience. Like, especially depending on, like, my comfort level with them. Like, how much of my goofiness have you already seen?
Yes.
So, like, how much can I flail my hands and wave my head around while I tell this story?
Well, and that's really part of the perfecting the story process for me, is the further I get into it, like, once I've gotten the right words to it, I feel like are expressing my sentiments and thoughts accurately enough, I will then incorporate more facial expression and body gestures the more comfortable I am with the person.
Yeah.
And so that means that they actually get to see more of my personality, because I am not an expressive person, so that when I do express, it's all the more punctuating.
Yeah.
We're like comedians, like working crowds.
Yes, exactly.
It is always nice to be able to talk about what book I'm currently reading, if somebody is interested in hearing about it.
I will say you do have a fair amount of readers, it seems like.
But that's only because I started reading, and therefore it became a topic of conversation.
Fair.
That's when those things are discovered.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And then incorporating it into the shop as, like, a thing.
Yeah. Look at what I have. Look at what I love.
Any books look familiar? Have you read any of these books? Are you interested in reading any of these books?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've read it, and maybe I can tell you whether or not it's worth reading.
Ooh, another client that's hard for me sometimes is when I have the older gentlemen that have to take out their hearing aids for the haircut. Difficult. And so I so often catch myself wanting to ask them something, but then they don't hear me. Like there's no... I've got a couple guys that are like deaf. So like once they're out, game over. I'm talking in hand gestures to you to see if you want your hair shorter. Like that's...
Well, and that's not like common for anybody with hearing aids to be stone deaf.
Yeah.
But I can see how that'd be a little frustrating for you. However, my typical client who has hearing aids can still hear, you just have to speak up, and that's difficult for me because I am not a loud talker and I don't like raising my voice. I can see how that wouldn't be a problem for you at all.
No, I just have to compete with the clipper because it's right next to their ear.
Yes,
so I just pull it back a little bit.
I do have to remember to do that with my trimmer when I'm talking to somebody. I'm like, oh, sorry.
And I'll tell you what, some of those hearing aids drive me nuts.
The squeaking?
Yeah, they'll sometimes set them down, and I have to like separate them. I have to put them in their respective corners because they just yell at each other, and I hear it.
Well, I will say that any client of mine that has hearing aids, they're all phenomenal at turning them off.
Really?
Yes. Whether they're batteries or rechargeables, they always make sure to turn them off.
I've only had one person turn his off.
Oh.
Everybody else hands them to me on.
What are ways that you first gauge how deep or shallow your conversation is going to be?
How forthcoming they are with their own information. Because if they're seeming a little more like they want to maintain surface level, then I also do that. Keep it with very like current life stuff. I just won't go past history until I get to learn a little bit more about them. Honestly, sometimes the amount of cuss words that are spoken from my chair helps me gauge if people will be receptive to certain information. And sometimes just their lifestyle, their line of work. I have a tendency to be a little more faster forthcoming with more like blue collar people. And that realm of contractor work, those sort of people.
You're less likely to feel like you might be judged.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And in theory, those are like lines of work where felons can even work to begin with. So it's a little bit more common for them to have also experienced someone with a little more jagged past, whereas like white collar people, not so much.
And even if they did, they may not know it.
Yes.
It's not something where it's like openly
out
talked
there.
about.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, it usually takes a couple appointments with somebody. I will say on the rarity that I do like spit off stuff first appointment, it's because they've given me keynotes in their conversation that show me that they either have a similar background or they know someone related, whether it's a relative or close person that has a similar, and it helps me be able to gauge it that way. But like if you're just, and no offense, this seems very stereotypy, but if you're just like a white collar dude that goes boating and like playing golf, I'm not going to tell you about it right away. I'm going to keep digging to see what kind of person you're like.
Well, and the, when you've made a mistake in life.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be that humility so that you can give grace to somebody.
Yes, exactly.
Because otherwise it's like, oh, if you think that, your stuff doesn't stink.
Yeah.
Then it's like, all right, then we can't connect.
Yeah.
Because it's not a starting place. And I do tend to hold information back, even I don't have your type of jagged background. But there are certain pieces of my life that I hold very close to my vest. Like,
Yeah.
I am not an open book. I am a search engine.
Yeah.
If you ask a direct question, I will give you direct answers. Because I am a very direct person. I don't suffer people who try and beat around the bush to get to where they want to get.
Yeah.
Because I see exactly what you're doing, and I'm not going to give you that satisfaction.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the kind of person I am. So even something that most people would be like, why would you not be upfront about that?
Yeah.
Because it's me. Like, I don't necessarily want everybody to know about that, because maybe I don't define myself by that. And maybe I don't want people to associate me with that first and foremost.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I don't live where I grew up.
Yeah.
Is because I don't want people to associate or judge me or create their expectation of me based on my family,
Yes.
my background, who I was when I was a child, and the choices I made then.
Yep.
I don't want that. So I want people to gauge their expectations of me on my merits,
Yeah.
on what I've done. That's it. So things like me being a military veteran. I have customers that have been my customer for years that don't know that.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because it's not something that I, like, it's not what I consider to be, like, a selling point of me.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and
just
also
something that I did.
Yeah, and if it doesn't come up in conversation, it's not like you're just gonna
Right.
boast about it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's not something I define myself by. It's not something that I, sport a veteran plate on my vehicle
Yeah,
or, a veteran hat or anything like that. Like, I don't flex that.
Yeah.
I don't even go out and on Veterans Day to get a free meal. Like, it's not something that it's not that I'm not proud of it. It's just,
It was that time of your life.
yeah, it was 3 years of my life. And I've been out so many times longer than I was ever in.
Been so many other things since then.
Yeah, I have grown as a person, and, like, I'm a totally different person now than I was then in a lot of aspects.
Yeah.
So it's really like, yeah, I did that, and I gathered a lot of knowledge and experience in that, so if it naturally comes up in conversation, like if I'm talking to somebody with a law enforcement background, and I can, converse with my experience with DUIs, or searching people, or, qualifying on firearms, stuff like that. Like, it's all right, I'll bring that up.
Yeah.
But
Like, this is where it can...
if it's a connection point,
Yeah.
it's okay, this is a useful connection point, I'll use it. But just like an average...
I feel like same with your butler school info. I feel like that's also one that... Because I've heard you mention that to a couple people that I know have sat with you for a while, and the shock in their reaction, they're just like, wait,
What?
If it comes up, it comes up. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right. And it's really like, all right, and if I need to add context to why I happen to have this knowledge on this subject, then I'll do that.
Yeah. Like when you're discussing wine.
Yes. Or, like, how to clean oriental rugs, or, like, those types of random things.
A conversation about how to clean rugs.
I love it. I had that today.
Yes!
Like, you never know what random bit of knowledge that you've acquired over your life that might be helpful to somebody. That's one of the great things about being a barber. And when you have those genuine, interesting, questioning conversations with people and finding out what they know, then you can acquire that too, and they don't lose it. So it's like, oh, and then I can, tuck that back in my filing cabinet, and when somebody else years down the road is like, oh, I have this issue and trying to figure out how to solve it, and I'm like, for whatever reason, this is what's in my head on that subject. Just whip that sucker out. Here's my nugget of knowledge.
Yep.
I can't tell you necessarily where I got it from.
But it's there.
It's there.
Here you go.
It wouldn't come out for this purpose for nothing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like selective amnesia. Same thing with, like, when I hear things like, when it comes to the small town drama, I don't know things. I hear things.
Yes.
And sometimes people want to know where I heard them from, and I don't remember. Because it doesn't matter who I heard them from.
Nope. I always like to make sure to add an allegedly when I share information sometimes, because I don't fact check sometimes.
Oh no,
Sometimes I do, depending.
I preface with, I hear.
Yeah. Word on the street.
Like that today. It's like, I hear you guys are in the market for some new employees in your department. And they're like, oh, do you cut so-and-so's hair? No, not anymore. I haven't cut his hair for years. I know him. But no, that's not who I heard it from. Oh, who'd you hear it from? Not telling you. I hear a lot of things from a lot of people.
Yep.
Your secrets are safe with me.
Mm-hmm.
So are other people's. What is talked about in the barbershop stays in the barbershop.
Mm-hmm. And I will remain unsided.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've got 2 people that were business partners. I cut both of their hair. They were no longer business partners. One of them parted ways. And I've actually heard kind of different sides and perspectives of the situation from both. So, like, that's where it stays, though. I don't cross-conversate. I don't say, he said so-and-so, he said this.
Nope.
And it's just...
We are listeners.
Even though I already heard the information that you're telling me today from him 2 weeks ago, it's brand new knowledge today.
Yep.
Brand new knowledge. I will ask more questions to figure things out, to act like I never even knew what happened.
Yep. Well, because the different perspective, it could be a totally different answer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And regardless, like, they're telling me a story about something in their life. So, like, who am I to then take this information, say that whether it's right or wrong, and then spew my own version of it back to somebody else?
Right. Well, and it's very, like, everyone's perspectives on an issue are valid perspectives to have.
Yes.
They don't have to agree to be valid.
Yes.
So, and I always try to be mindful and meet people where they are. I'm going, I'm dealing with you. This is your time.
Mm-hmm.
I care about you.
Yep.
Just like I have people who were couples. I've cut both their hair.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people who have gotten divorces, and I still cut both their hair. But I do also make sure to let them know that, like, you guys don't have to divide your barber.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something that needs to be divvied up in the divorce.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here for you when you are in my chair.
Mm-hmm.
I will not take sides.
No.
I will be here and I will listen to whatever you need to share.
Mm-hmm.
And I will support you in whatever my capacity as your barber that I can do.
Yeah.
Just like I did before. Nothing with our relationship changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's how it works.
Been fun.
Yeah. And anybody with any sort of maturity is good with that.
Yeah.
It's people who can't be mature and, like, work past awkwardness or feelings, or are overly concerned with their perception of the possibility of other people's judgment, which I can relate to. Like, that's a lot of the cause of anxiety is, the fear of being judged.
Yeah, and the unknown of whether the judgment is even happening or not.
Yes.
It's just all in your own head.
Yeah. So I don't fault anybody who, like, finds themselves in that headspace.
Yeah.
But you also can't say that I don't try and put forth the effort to reassure people that you don't have to worry about that from me.
Yeah.
I can't control the rest of your life and the rest of the people in it. But as far as you are here in my space, this is about you.
Judgment-free zone.
Yeah. I can't say judgment-free zone.
I literally, as I said the words, I, like, started playing back a couple of my regulars, and I was like, I've been a little critical.
No, this will be honest zone.
Yes.
You will get honesty from me.
Yes.
And that is a reputation I have built over the decade plus, is that do not ask me a question you do not want an honest answer to.
Yeah.
Because I will be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And it may not be tactful. I will reassure you of my affection for you, my, like, that we're cool, but I will still, if it stings, I'm gonna have it sting.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the truth does that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to pull that punch. And I think I get more, people appreciate that because in today's day and age, it's so much about saving face or, like, smoothing things over on the surface and doing the backbiting behind closed doors and with other people. And I don't have the energy for that.
No.
I am too tired for that kind of stuff. I would rather just get this out of the way. But it is interesting to me sometimes some of the questions I get asked as a barber, like people wanting my opinion about them. Where, like, genuinely, typically, we're talking appearance or most especially appearance because that's our job. But it's them wanting to know if I think something looks good or if I think that they look, well enough to achieve something. And it's I will be honest and tell you that whatever haircut I give you or beard trim or whatever service I give you, I will not let you walk out of here without my seal of approval.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I don't have an opinion with the vast majority of my clients of whether or not you look attractive. Like, that's not my job.
Yeah.
And that is a highly subjective personal preference.
Yeah.
So I won't give that information. I will word a vague response to try and, like, satisfy that question.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell you, yes, I think you could date.
Yeah.
I compare it to the first time somebody asked me about my opinion of a flower arrangement. I don't know anything about flower arrangements. How can I have an opinion? Because I believe an opinion should be an informed opinion.
Yeah.
Not an opinion out of ignorance on that subject. You go, I don't know anything about flower arrangements, so how can I possibly say whether that is a good or bad flower arrangement? Whether or not I think it looks good or bad. I can't make that determination. Because I know nothing about it. I feel the same way about people that, like, you're a client. I'm not looking at you whether or not you're attractive or not. Like, that's not my job. It's like a glitching computer. I cannot answer that question.
Yeah.
Because that's not the perspective I have.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that hasn't been asked much.
Yeah.
But on the rare occasion it does get asked, it's like...
Oh, I get my opinion asked often.
That doesn't surprise me, though. But it's very different. You're a single woman. I'm a married woman.
Fair. And I was also, as you were talking, I was like... Because not that I am looking to find attraction in my clients, but I definitely sometimes see what works best for them.
For sure.
But it is still in an attractive kind of way. Like, I still have an opinion of how it looks on them personally.
Yeah, and I do too. And that is how I gauge whether or not somebody can, rock a mustache or like the framing of their beard and like things like that. But those are visual components, and that's more of a, does it bring balance to your face?
Got you. Okay, yeah.
So those are objective assessments versus the personal opinion that is a subjective.
Yeah.
Like, we're looking at it from a professional, we know about balance, density, like working within those things, and because we are professionals, we incorporate that into our opinion of whether or not somebody's attractive.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But when they're just asking the personal opinion part, it's like, I don't have that. Even with somebody I find attractive personally, I still don't answer that question. Because I'm not... Like, that's not my place.
Yeah.
I am married. If that person is married, like, those social boundaries cause me to, like, that's not a question I'm going to answer.
I don't enter that zone.
That is a professional line.
Yeah.
So, though rare, it is something to keep in mind that you may come across.
Yeah.
The vast array of conversations that occur in the barbershop. Like the amount of times we discuss poop.
Oh my god. It literally does not matter. Not even necessarily like Bree and I together.
No.
Like, she could be in her side of the space doing her own thing where I can't even hear her. And then she'll overhear me talking about poop. And then pipe in that they were also just talking about poop. And, like, it just always happens. At least once a week. The conversations go back to poop in some way, shape, or form. Human, animal, on the news. Literally doesn't matter. Always gets back there.
Like, I still remember the conversation about, what is it, wombat?
Wombat poop.
Yeah,
being square.
cubes.
Cube
And why? And, like, what their muscles do to make it a cube.
Or even just like discussing how the poop emoji does not look like any pile of poop I've ever seen in my whole life.
Well, unless your dog is having a problem.
Yes. Then they need to go to a doctor.
But yeah, that's the conversations that we have.
They end up going so well. And I think that's one of the things that I love about this profession is just the variety of people that we get to deal with on a daily basis. Just come all different ends of all different kinds of spectrums. Like, I've got one client that almost every time I see him, and it's every probably like 2 months or so, he's gone on a new vacation, whether it's a backpacking trip in Egypt, or he went to Italy with his daughter, or we have an ostrich farmer that we get to chat with. I once upon a time had a furry that I got to pick the brain of.
We know more about Rolls Royce than we ever thought we would.
Ever thought I would ever
Yeah.
know about a Rolls Royce. That's for darn sure. I know way more about the anime show One Piece thanks to a 6-year-old who's obsessed with it. You know what I mean? Like, I just get to learn so much different stuff that I wouldn't learn in my a normal day-to-day life of my life.
That's one of my favorite things about this job.
Yeah.
It's like the endless supply of knowledge.
Yeah, and just cool experiences. Like the people that I met that came here from England for a vintage perfume bottle convention. Like, just the oddest of things sometimes. But it's really what keeps this interesting.
Well, and I also think it keeps life in general interesting. It's if you find yourself being bored, there is no end to the possibilities of rabbit holes you can go down.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, if you're bored, you're not trying. And that's kind of often where because I am naturally a curious person. And being a natural born listener, that's really helpful and very helpful in the barbering profession.
Yeah.
Like, to be an active listener is beyond any other skill set you can bring to this. It's super helpful.
Yeah.
And not just from a conversational standpoint, but like in order to learn. Mm-hmm. When it comes to information, I suck people dry of their knowledge.
Yeah.
And leave their carcass and on to the next. Well, when it comes to like the 30, 40 minutes at a time I get people, I never exhaust their knowledge.
Yeah.
And I move on quickly to other people. So, like, it's more of I guess if I were a knowledge vampire.
I was literally just picturing you as a vampire. I was just like, it's like you're a word vampire.
Yes, I'm a knowledge vampire. Yep. So it's I'm more like feeding off of you, but you're not ever being killed.
You're like if a vampire worked in a blood lab.
I'm a vampire phlebotomist.
Just all access to you. Just all the knowledge.
Just a vial at a time.
Yeah.
Don't need a ton of bags. Nope. Just a little bit.
Just a pint. You'll refill for next time.
Yep. We'll see you next time you donate. But that also means it's like between visits, people experience more life, and therefore they have more things to tell you. Mm-hmm. So I don't need to be a risk-taking, adventurous person because I can kind of live life vicariously through people.
Yeah.
By them sitting in my chair and telling me their experiences.
Yep.
It's kind of great, especially as an introvert.
Yeah.
You're an extrovert who enjoys introvert tendencies.
Yes, exactly. I enjoy it.
I'm an introvert that has extroverted tendencies in the right situation.
Yeah.
Any other topics of conversation we want to talk about?
No, this is a great chat about chats.
I love it. All right, we will see y'all next week.
Have a good night.